Every baby counts. Learn about saving babies together. Coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at Marion County Medical Center. We're focused on this Saturday's March of Dimes Marion County Walk America, which kicks off at 10 a.m. And we're visiting with Pete Mulford, the Chief Executive Officer for Marion Regional Healthcare System. Good morning,
Morning,
Pete.
Greg.
Thanks
How are you?
so much for letting us back.
Well,
Golly.
it's great to have you back here in Marion.
Being back, being here in the spring, and
Right.
of course had such an exciting week focused on the hospital and so many of the activities going on. It was great being with Bruce Siegel. Of course, he was tied in with the March of Dimes ride
He
for
was
babies
the poker
yesterday,
run for babies, right?
which was so exciting. They had a great turnout, rain or shine. It was going to be a big day, and
Right.
of course, a number of folks were active out there. This is a big walk this Saturday.
It is a big walk. I think over the last 2 or 3 years, Marion County has really turned out in force. As you know from the numbers we've shared with you, we've gone from a very low dollar response in the county to over $35,000, we hope, this year.
That is amazing.
And it's all related to the people in the county that are helping pull it off.
To have virtually nothing just a handful of years ago
Right.
to springboard that much, what do you
That's
think
right.
prompted that, really the people in the community wanting to wrap around something?
Probably a lot of things going on. I think obviously prematurity of infants and neonatal infant concerns are rising, certainly in the PD, and that's true here in Marion County as well. I frankly attribute it to the organizations that are Circle of Champions sponsors with us, and all of the teams from those organizations that are really getting out person to person, door to door, project to project to help us raise those funds.
Pete, about yourself, for folks who may not have called you when you were with us in the spring, when did you join Marion Regional Healthcare System, and where were you prior to the move to the area?
Sure. Came here roughly 2.5 years ago, back to South Carolina.
Right.
If you recall, I had started my healthcare career here in South Carolina, and so we came back after 25 years from West Virginia. So we came a little bit further back south than what we call back home.
And you were in West Virginia immediately prior to coming back to South Carolina.
That's right, for roughly 13 years.
Do you have family with you here in the area?
Well, of course, my wife, Betty, came back, fortunately. She was glad to get, actually, she's a South Carolinian, so she was glad to get home. And my 2 kids are both, one just finished Coastal Carolina University, and she's back up in the Middle Atlantic looking for a job, and I have a son at West Virginia University.
Am I correct that hospital tenure when you were in South Carolina was in the upstate, maybe in Greenville? Or
It was in Greenville, you're exactly right.
Okay. And did you meet Betty up there?
We did, yeah. She was working in the hospital in their Department of Medical Education.
Is that right? Well, I got to tell you, in the interim, since we were last here, I've been with a number of other hospital administrators. It's been fascinating. Of course, one of the great things you pointed out was that you had started your career, I think, as an orderly. I did. And I remember, and Jim O'Laughlin was the most recent when we were at doing a Boy Scout taping over at the convention center, and talking about his tenure through the ranks, where he'd started. And of course, I pointed out to him, I think, in that interview, of your experience as an orderly very early on. How's that been? How's the ascension been?
I think, as they say, it's been a fun ride. I think Jim, I know him well. Certainly, we actually used to be in the same company years ago. And, we all probably have experiences where we started somewhere, as they say, in the ranks, where we have a real appreciation for the patient service part of what we do, not just the business part of our industry, which is quite important, of course. But I really enjoyed the orderly days, working on the nursing units, emergency departments at 2 in the morning, and like Jim and a lot of others, have a lot of good memories from that.
Right. And Pete, when you think about, if someone asked you what prompted you to pursue a career in the healthcare industry, would it be those early days?
I think that probably helped, Greg. I think probably the capstone of that was in the Army. I was a medical evacuation pilot, And in that experience, actually close by Fort Stewart, Georgia, was my last assignment in the military, and the hospital commander just happened to suggest, why don't you think about hospital administration? And as they say, the rest is history. I looked into it and went back for a master's degree in the field, and then came back to Greenville to start my career.
This is a new facility here that we're sitting today, and obviously where the walk kicks off this Saturday. Marion County Medical Center was formed through the consolidation of the Mullins and Marion hospitals.
Correct.
What prompted that consolidation, and when did this new facility open?
The new facility opened roughly 5 years before I got here, and certainly that was one of my attractions, as well as the people here, to come to Marion. But it really was a merger of two small community hospitals into one medium-sized community, and we actually call ourselves a regional healthcare system now, as you know. And it really allows you to combine the economies of scale, the staff, the medical staff, the technology, and all of the resources that it takes in today's world to provide a very good healthcare environment.
So you think the consolidation has definitely helped the community?
Absolutely. I think we certainly have reduced what would have been duplication of services, duplication of costs. We are one of the lowest cost hospitals in our peer group, for size in both of the Carolinas, actually.
Right.
And so, we're excited, and I think as well a facility like this, as you've seen before, helps us attract really good people that want to work in truly a first-class operation.
Absolutely. When you think about the impact that a medical center has on a community, how would you quantify, of course, the opportunity to really expand the services of just a single institution when two merge together, but if someone was to ask, how does a medical center impact the life and economy of a community?
Well, obviously our first mission and goal is patient care, and that's what we're here about for patients. But in addition, a system like this puts roughly $28 million of payroll back into the community, and when doubled for economic benefits, close to $80 million of an economic engine for Marion County.
Wow.
And that's true for all hospitals like us in the communities they serve. We do a lot in scholarship programs, health career, workforce development, Chamber of Commerce, economic development support programs, and actually we're the only hospital in South Carolina to be a Duke Endowment Rural Communities program.
Is that right? The only one in the state?
One. And we're bringing roughly $500,000 into Marion County over the next 3 years by sponsoring the Duke Endowment's program for the rural Carolinas. So we're very excited about that.
Congratulations. You must be. That's a big deal. Of course, the Duke Endowment has such a dramatic impact on both Carolinas.
It does. The Duke Endowment has probably done more in the Carolinas for improving healthcare facilities, and of course many other projects as well. But it's really a hallmark institution, I would call it, for healthcare.
And that's a great testament to Marion County Medical Center and to the regional healthcare system. When you think about Duke Endowment, obviously really checks out facts and figures.
Well, and I have to say, of course, we're just a sponsor. We have a great community group that really was the group that we were able to pull together to go after the grant and successfully be awarded the grant.
Yes. Yeah. Pete, what are some of the newer technologies? I know we talked about some of these in the spring, but some of the newer technologies incorporated in Marion County Medical Center?
A lot of the technologies here would be in the imaging services, and actually several months ago we kicked off our digital mammography service, which was the first one, I'm told, actually east of Greenwood, South Carolina. There are a lot of other hospitals now planning to put in digital mammography, but we have people coming from all over the PD and frankly as far away as Charleston and Columbia that have heard about our digital mammography service. We just upgraded a new multi-slice CT scanner. We are always upgrading our cardiovascular and peripheral vascular services, as well as just information technology. They predict the day in the future when everything will be by computer and there will be no more paper, which will be interesting, won't it?
I cannot imagine. I can't imagine, but I'm sure over time something like that will happen.
Right.
Golly, Pete. And when you think about, of course, the merger of the two hospitals, some of the activities like the digital mammography just couldn't have happened at a single institution,
That's
either
true.
Mullins or Marion.
That's true. Very true.
So the merger has had a dramatic impact. What role is the hospital playing in supporting the March of Dimes?
Well, I would say both a personal role, which we could get into, and professional. We really, about 3 years ago, probably 2 years ago, just after I got here, took on the role of trying to help the March of Dimes rally the community. Through the March of Dimes effort, we led in the development of a Circle of Champions group. So we have now 9 of our major employers in the area are all contributing major sponsorships, and your company as well is one of those, which we certainly appreciate. But we really have tried to be a catalyst and a facilitator. We have a great team. You'll be talking with Harry Martin, I know,
Tomorrow,
later.
yes.
And by the way, Harry has a gift for you, so
great.
don't
Yeah.
let him leave without it.
Absolutely.
And but we've been a facilitator and a catalyst, and then particularly our banks and some of our larger businesses have really stepped forward to develop teams as well as sponsors. So we've enjoyed being in that catalyst and facilitator role.
Absolutely. Now, Pete, you had a personal involvement with the March of Dimes. Would you mind
I did.
sharing with the
No,
viewers?
it's kind of interesting as life comes around, but as a child, I had polio, and actually the March of Dimes was started to combat and pay for what was called infantile paralysis, or polio. And actually, as one of 4 very young children, I had it when I was 5 and spent considerable time in a hospital, of course, with a lot of bills. The March of Dimes actually was what paid all of my parents and our health care bills through that polio epidemic of those days. Yeah.
That is amazing. Well, that is wonderful. And of course, you are not. I mean, the hospital was not forced into supporting the March of Dimes. This was really a rally around.
Right.
The whole crew here was excited
And
about that.
I think that's the way it is for the hospital and the community as well. It's another one of those great volunteer efforts that makes our community, our state, and frankly our country such a great place to live.
Yes, Pete. And why do you think, in particular, the PD community, and in Marion County in particular, the desire to help and the need to help the March of Dimes is so apparent?
I think probably, again, back to South Carolina's health status overall being at a pretty critical stage. And a lot of that, Greg, is related to premature births. The March of Dimes nationally, of course, is going on a very, very big campaign, over $75 million, to help train, educate, broadcast, and otherwise work towards a reduction in prematurity. And particularly Marion County and the PD are right in the middle of those statistics, and so I think it's something we can tell people is very close to home. A lot of the March of Dimes money that goes for research comes directly back for things like surfactant therapy for newborns, and a lot of nursing seminars and programs throughout the state on prematurity. So we see through the March of Dimes a lot of their effort coming back and supporting the local communities.
You'll be out here on Saturday participating in the
I
walk?
will be. If you'd like to join us, you're more than welcome to
rain or
come.
shine.
Absolutely. We're going to have a great walk, and we have a lot of fun, and we have a tent out behind us here, and good food, and we just have a great time.
You heard him say it. We're less than a week away. It's this Saturday, registration at 9 a.m. The walk kicks off at 10. A lot will be going on. Of course, it kicks off right behind us, right behind the fountain here. It'll be a big celebration. Pete, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Greg, thanks for being at Marion County Medical Center.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Stay tuned to Joe Fisher coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome back to Carolina People. This morning we're at Marion County Medical Center. We're focused on this Saturday's March of Dimes, Marion County Walk America, and we're visiting with Joe Fisher, the Community Director for the PD Division of the March of Dimes. Good morning,
it's
Joe.
Nice to see you.
Thanks so much for coming in.
Absolutely.
This is so
Great
exciting.
to be here.
Golly, this Saturday, less than a week from now, we'll be out here, rain or shine, the walk
That's
happens.
right. Our countdown has begun. to one of the finest walks I think we have in the fall, and that's the one in Marion County.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So exciting. And, of course, it was great, Harry bringing the T-shirt in and sharing a little bit about the amazing shirt that they've put together. And year after year, I guess they come up with great wraparound concepts.
They do, along with our other teams. We have right now in Marion County 30 teams that are raising money for the March of Dimes.
Is that right? 30, Joe?
30, and just a few short years ago we only had 5.
Golly.
So this walk has grown significantly in the past few years. New teams, new leadership, new volunteers, and people coming on board to help save babies.
Absolutely. Joe, real quick about yourself, where are you from originally?
I'm originally from San Antonio, Texas.
Okay. What brought you to the area, and what had you been doing prior to your move here?
Well, we've been my husband and I moved into the Myrtle Beach area 5 years ago. And prior to that, we were kind of like gypsies. We've lived in a number of communities, but we moved to Myrtle Beach from Niagara Falls, New York. We both had positions up there. And we have a daughter who lives in Sumter, South Carolina. And our son went in the United States Army and went to Fort Bragg. So my husband and I decided it was time to get down into the South and get between our children so we'd be accessible to both.
Great, Joe, absolutely.
Here we came.
And what brought you to your position with the March of Dimes?
Well, now that's an interesting part of my journey because I've always been in the hospitality business. And when we moved from Niagara Falls to Myrtle Beach, I went back into the hospitality business. But 2.5 years ago, a position opened with the March of Dimes, and I had done fundraising in the past. I'm fortunate enough to have 2 children, and one who's adopted and then came along many years later and had our son. And I love babies, and that's what the March of Dimes is all about. And so I interviewed for the position and was hired.
Had you ever worked with the March of Dimes as a volunteer?
I had worked many, many years ago as a volunteer. I can remember growing up having the little cards that we put dimes into, and doing that, and I could remember being in businesses where we participated in Walk Americas, and now I'm directly involved in 2 in the fall and 3 in the spring, as well as a motorcycle event.
And speaking of the motorcycle event, you all had the 2nd annual Horry County Ride for Babies just yesterday. How was it?
We just had it. It was an overwhelming success. We had bikers, and more bikers, and once again, a host of volunteers who came out to help us, along with our sponsors, which includes your fine company. They were all there. We had a good time. I think the consensus was, let's do this again in 2004.
Great. And year after year, I hope, Joe.
We hope so. We just started this 2 years ago, and it seems like a natural for the Horry County area to have a motorcycle event.
Oh, yeah.
But it takes a great deal to orchestrate one. But with the kind of support that we get, there's no reason why we can't continue to do it and it grow larger and larger every year.
Well, of course, the great thing is you're getting riders. I mean, you had riders yesterday in from all over the Carolinas, folks from North and South Carolina who found out about the ride, wanted to be down in Horry County. Of course, it turned out to be a great afternoon. It would have been great rain or shine. I mean, it was just going to be a great day.
A great day.
Absolutely. That's wonderful. Did you have any personal experiences that prompted you to go ahead and pursue that position that was available there at the March of Dimes, Joe?
Well, I appreciate your asking that, because when I went to interview, I am the proud grandmother of 4. And our youngest grandson, when he was born, Zachary, was born with cleft lip. And it was a rather traumatic experience for my son and his wife. And I found out that the March of Dimes pioneered cleft lip and cleft palate surgeries. They provided the grants to the doctors who are doing miraculous things for babies in this day and age. And when Zachary was 6 months old, he was taken to Duke University Medical Center for reconstructive surgery. And his lip today looks great, and he has a hairline scar. And we'll have to have some additional surgery when he's a little older, but he looks terrific. And because of the March of Dimes, they touched my life. They've touched it in more ways now that I've learned more about the March of Dimes, because I've had the polio vaccine, and we are the ones that pioneered that. I know what drugs and alcohol can do to mothers if they don't take care of themselves. I certainly am aware about teen pregnancies. And so it's a wonderful organization. They've been around for a long time. And I'm proud to be part of an organization that's had a success story, Greg, about polio and then changed its focus to babies.
Absolutely, Joe, and I'm so glad I had no idea the March of Dimes had given some of that initial funding to battle cleft palate and cleft lip repair, and obviously that's something you and I have in common with my daughter, and that's magnificent. Can you give us a brief history of the March of Dimes, where it originated, and what was its original mission? You said the fighting polio.
The March of Dimes was founded in 1938 by President Franklin Delano Roosevelt to find a cure for infantile paralysis, polio as we know it today, because he had polio. We got our name from an entertainer named Eddie Cantor, who went on the radio and asked people all over America to send their dimes to Washington, D.C. And they coined the phrase. It was a March of Dimes. It probably was the first march on Washington, D.C., but it was a March of Dimes. That's how the March of Dimes began. And in 1955, when Dr. Salk came out with a polio vaccine, and it was deemed successful, the March of Dimes changed its focus to babies and to saving babies.
Joe, do you have any idea, or I'm sure you probably know, when the idea for fundraising wrapped around a walk, and when the first walk was held?
Absolutely. The first walks for the March of Dimes were held in 1970. Walk America was born. And so we've been doing walks for 33 years. In fact, we're the first organization to come up with walks and to it was a way to pair companies with individuals and to raise money from a corporate perspective, but to also get the volunteer, and whether they're school children or whether they're in a company, they could get involved in raising money and then come together and walk. Not a relay, just a casual walk that you put an ambassador family with. And when you get to the walk, it's a celebration because they've raised the money, and we can come together and celebrate our success for babies.
Yes, Joe, and I'm so glad you mentioned the March of Dimes were really the first group to launch a walk in 1970. There's so many walks. Of course, last week Carolina People was focused on the PD American Heart Walk, and obviously well before that on the Myrtle Beach area Heart Walk. So Heart Walks have been a big deal, but the Walk Americas have been around a heck of a long time.
They've been around for a long time, and they certainly have spurred interest in other organizations to do walks or relays.
Absolutely. Joe, we got about 3 minutes. How are the teams organized in the walk, and how important are corporate sponsorships to the success of a Walk America?
Well, you certainly need to get businesses involved in any community, and Marion County's been very successful in getting their companies involved through Pete Mulford, the CEO of Marion County Hospital. Then you have to have teams, and a team can be 3 people. It can be 3 people from a church, or it can be as many as 100 from some of the companies that are in the area. We have a kickoff. We bring all of our team captains in, be they veteran or be they new. We give them all of their materials and send them on their way, and for 2 months individuals raise monies, and then they bring those monies in on the Thursday before the walk. We put them in the bank. We give everybody who's raised $100 a Walk America t-shirt, and then on Saturday we walk. We encourage them to raise it in any configuration. They can bring us a dime, they can bring us $1. It all adds up in the final analysis. And then the companies, of course, their logos will go on the back of the t-shirts.
That is fantastic.
It is. It's just a lot of fun.
And this is Marion County's 15th annual walk.
15th annual walk, and it has grown and grown and grown. Just a few short years ago, they raised $5,000. And this past year, when we announced that we had raised $31,000, there went a yell from this hospital that I'm sure was heard all the way down at the beach. I don't think they believe they could raise that kind of money since they've lost 2,000 jobs in 2 years. But what a great way to bring people together to save babies.
Absolutely. And I think Pete just mentioned moments ago the goal this year is $35,000.
Yes, sir.
So he's working like gangbusters. How important is the support of the community leaders to the success of fundraising efforts?
Well, I heard a long time ago that as the leader goes, so goes the pack. And if you have great leaders, then you're going to have people who will step up to get involved. And even though they're busy, they're not too busy to help us fulfill the mission of saving a baby, one baby at a time. Babies like Madeline Hucks, our ambassador from Marion this year.
And I'm glad you mentioned Madeline. Of course, we'll visit with Beth and Madeline on Wednesday. But can you tell us about how that we've got a little less than a minute, Joe? How did the participation of ambassador babies and their families begin, and how important is that?
It began by focusing. You have to bring a baby so people can see what the mission is all about. And so we go to the hospitals every year and ask them to help us identify a family that has had a baby this year prematurely that we could utilize as an ambassador. They contact them and ask them, and then we follow up and ask them. They're at our kickoff. They go to company events, special events. Then Madeline will be at our walk, and she'll lead the walk. She'll be in her stroller. We'll decorate it, and when the police pull out of here as our escort, Madeline will be right behind them, and then all of our walkers behind our Madeline and that family cheering them on.
Get out here this Saturday. Registration 9 a.m. The walk kicks off at 10. There'll be hundreds of folks following Madeline Hucks and her family as they lead this year's 15th annual Marion County Walk America. Joe, thanks so much
Absolutely.
for being with us this
What a
morning.
pleasure to be able to talk to you.
Definitely. Stay tuned to more Carolina People coming up next. We want to thank Pete Mulford, the CEO of Marion County Medical Center, and Joe Fisher from the March of Dimes for making today's Carolina People so special.